Hey guys, there's some drama going on in the martial arts world. Big surprise, right? Anyway, I'm going to talk about that, but it's kind of related to this comment somebody tagged me on Instagram. Follow my Instagram, by the way, Real Viking Samurai. See some of my cool training on there. But anyway, this guy, and I think this is unfair, but I'm going to address a couple of things here. This guy was CJ Thomas, 004, the actor. He said, decided to do a martial arts podcast that shines a light on black martial artists. The ones that are out right now are a bit racist. He's talking about my channel, by the way. He said, this is well overdue. Black people have big hearts, and with that we allow the wrong people in. So first of all, I don't think you can make that blanket statement saying black people have big hearts. I think individuals of every race, some people just have a big open heart and some people don't. It has nothing to do with race. It doesn't. And then he said, there is a guy at Real Viking Samurai, me, who may or may not be a racist. I'm not, for the record, and anyone who knows me or watches the channel knows that. And it doesn't really matter what I say, because it's like, I can't just tell you guys I'm not. You're either going to think I'm not, or you're going to think I am. But I think if you actually watch my content, there's nothing there that would lead anybody to that assumption. And it really doesn't bug me either if somebody calls me that, and I'll tell you why. It's like, well, first of all, I'm probably not going to change their mind, and it's not even worth a fight getting into. But it's almost like if somebody called me fat. Like, I know I'm not fat, so it doesn't bug me. But it is kind of annoying. I'm not going to lie. It is kind of annoying, you know. And nobody wants to be labeled or assumed to be that. I'm not talking about fat. I'm talking about, you know, the racist word, of course. Okay, so he said, but he makes it a point and has guests join him in talking down and talking shit about only black martial artists. So if he's referring to the recent episode that I did, the live discussion with Kung Fu Genius, which was a great episode. Check it out, guys. It's under the live tab on the YouTube page. Great discussion. People really enjoyed that quite a bit, and that was a fun discussion. And I'm going to do more lives this year, by the way. But basically, the discussion I had with the Kung Fu Genius had nothing to do with Vic Moore's race. It had everything to do with what he said about Bruce Lee, like the different claims he made. That's what the discussion was about. We didn't really care if Vic Moore was a white dude, an Asian guy, a Mexican guy, a black guy, a woman, a transgender, an alien, like whatever, man. He just happened to be black. I mean, that's how he was born. Whatever. That had nothing to do with the discussion. Anyway, he says he is very passive. This guy's referring to me. He constantly misquotes my big brother at official Michael Jai White. So, first of all, I don't misquote Michael Jai White. I literally use clips that Michael Jai White says himself in videos from, like, DJ Vlad or other interviews. This is stuff he says.
An actual fight? What I would think?
Yeah, who would win that fight?
I think Jackie Chan would win.
That, Jackie Chan would beat up Bruce Lee. When asked by DJ Vlad, and DJ Vlad obviously is known for his controversy and clickbait, and is asking these questions because he knows it's going to cause a discussion, which it did, man, and I made a video about it. Like, why wouldn't I, man? It's pretty damn funny. I don't think I've ever heard anybody ever say, I think Jackie Chan could beat up Bruce Lee. Like, I don't think anyone has ever said that before, right? So, let Michael Jai White say it, and we'll comment about it, because it's kind of funny. Anyway. But, if I go back to the whole Michael Jai White thing, as he says, I'll have guests join him in talking down and talking, crap about black martial arts. So, there was a time where I had this guy who I didn't know was nearly as bad or disrespectful on the channel. And yes, we did talk about Michael Jai White in the past. But the video topic I made was, it asked the question, like, is Michael Jai White delusional? And this is based on stuff he said that, well, not only did he say he could beat Bruce Lee, which, okay, a lot of people would say, well, that's not delusional. He outweighs him by 100 pounds. Like, even the Kung Fu Genius brought that up. It's like, yeah, he has a huge size advantage, and Michael Jai White is a very heavily skilled martial artist. So there's that. So that's not really that delusional of a comment. I don't think even Michael Jai White himself says, I wish I didn't say that. So, it is what it is. But as far as beating all the Expendables, it's like, come on, man. Randy Couture was an Expendable. Dolph Lundgren will put up a hell of a fight, dude. So, I think Stallone and, well, again, if you go with Jet Li's quite a bit smaller. But again, man, like, that I think was a little controversial. I think there's a bit of delusion if you think you could beat Randy Couture, like anybody. Randy Couture is a champion UFC fighter. And then he also said, Michael Jai White said, he could beat Mike Tyson in boxing. It's like, I think anybody's delusional to believe that, man. I'm not saying you shouldn't believe it. You should probably keep it to yourself, though. Like anybody was like, I mean, come on, man. He's a legend. Mike Tyson's a legend, just like Bruce Lee. See, the difference is Mike Tyson's still alive, and somebody says something about him. Oh, I could, for example, say they could beat Mike Tyson, and it's like, well, why don't you tell Mike Tyson that, man? Because he's still around. And that's the issue when people say that about Bruce Lee, though. It's like, dude, this guy died 50 years ago, man. And because he's such a legend, it's like, you're going to say something bad, you should probably not say anything at all. So going back to that guest I had on the channel, though, like, it went beyond just commenting and sharing thoughts about things that Michael Jai White said. Like, this guy, who I disassociated with, by the way, for good reason, but this guy went out of his way to just start straight up disrespecting the man himself. So I had to disassociate because I'm not cool with that. Like, I'm cool commenting and sharing my thoughts on, different people's like movies or different things somebody says, but I'm not going to go to the level of just straight up disrespecting somebody, man. So I had to disassociate with him. In fact, I even, on a video that I did with Urban Combatives Netherlands, who also has a big issue with that guest I had referenced.
If it would happen, for example, 5-6 years ago, I would drive to his house, throw a brick to his window, and then even when the door was open, and beat the out of him on this couch. But I became a better person. Because, first of all, it's not intelligent. It's driven by my ego. And what do I win with that? I mean, it's going to be the best moments of my life for a short period of time. But then afterwards, you pay the price. It's not worth it, man.
Basically, in that video at the beginning, I made a public apology to Michael Jai White and his fans based on a guest that I had on, just because at one time I was associated with that guy and he was spewing his garbage and I allowed it on the channel. So it wasn't even stuff that I said. It was stuff that somebody else said, but yeah, technically it was on my Viking Samurai YouTube channel, so like I made a public apology. It's like, because he went too far. But going back to Bruce Lee, for example, there's other people who've said things or, portrayed Bruce Lee in a certain way, like Quentin Tarantino in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I did a whole video with George Pogosich kind of defending Bruce Lee and saying, hey, Quentin, that's not really cool, man. And then Mickey Gall was a UFC fighter that basically talked shit about Bruce Lee. Like, oh, I could kick his ass, I made a whole video about that. So the thing is, where I'm going with this, it's like me making these videos defending Bruce Lee has nothing to do with attacking Michael Jai White because he's black. It's more like I'm defending Bruce Lee in general, just like I did with Quentin Tarantino, just like I did with with Mickey Gall.
First of all, I would Bruce Lee up.
Wait.
They also kind of attacked Bruce Lee, I felt, in a way, so I made videos about that. And I'm not defending Bruce Lee because he's Chinese and I'm half Asian, and that has nothing to do with it. So nothing I ever have done on the show has anything to do with race, man. It's always about the individual, or it's about specific comments or other things, okay? But what else is this guy? He said, he blew off my other big brother at Ron Hall. It's like, what? I'm going to call Ron Hall because as far as I know, I never blew him off. I always take his calls. I get along with him great. I interviewed him. You guys should check out those interview segments. They were really good. And yeah, me and Ron Hall get along great. When his comic book comes out, I'll promote that on the channel, because it's a cool idea. So yeah, I just don't get where he comes up with this stuff. I don't even know if Ron Hall knows this guy, to be honest, but I'll ask Ron. I'll get him on the phone, man. So, okay, so he says I blew off Ron Hall. And now taking advantage of an 80-plus-year-old Vic Moore. Taking advantage, like how? I let the guy share his story, and I treated it very respectfully. So if people in the comments section don't believe specifically stuff about Bruce Lee, and even the Kung Fu Genius who I had on doing that live episode, had an issue with stuff he said about Bruce Lee, it's like, okay, You know, I like to hear multiple sides, man. In fact, I would love to get Chuck Norris on because Vic Moore in the interview said Chuck Norris knows that I really beat him in that competition, even though technically he won. But like on the paper card, whatever they had, Chuck wrote to the guy that beat me. Maybe that's true. I loved hearing that story from Vic, but I want to hear it from Chuck. Maybe that's true. I'm all about the truth, man. Like, I know I get people on the channel who may not necessarily tell the truth. I'm not talking about Vic Moore. I'm not necessarily talking about Frank Dukes or anybody else. Maybe they're telling the truth. Maybe they're not. I think it's fair to hear from these guys specifically and to hear from other people. So if this guy wants to make it all about race, well, you know, look at some of the videos I did with Frank Dukes. Like I of course interviewed Frank Dukes. I had people speak highly of him. I have had other people on the channel talk a lot of crap about Frank Dukes, man. Because again, with me, I'm not doing that because I like or dislike Frank Dukes. I'm doing that because I think it's fair to hear from multiple sides. And just for the record, I don't really have an issue with any of these people in general. Like, I like Frank Dukes, but also I like the people that despise Frank Dukes, like like Alan Goldberg, for example, who's having his great martial arts event this weekend. And that's another thing, dude. The martial arts, like, as far as I'm concerned, have always been good at bringing people together in general, right? Despite race or sex, gender, religion, age, whatever. I always felt like it was more of a unity thing. Now, obviously, in the martial arts world, there's a lot of infighting. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys who talk shit about taekwondo guys, and taekwondo guys who talk shit about, you know, boxers, or boxers who talk shit about aikido guys, etc. Like, it is what it is, man. But in general, I identify as a martial artist. I've devoted my life to that. I respect other martial artists who devoted their life to that, like Alan Goldberg, Michael Jai White, Frank Dukes, Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Benny Urquidez, Don the Dragon Wilson, like, so many guys, right? And it's all about the traits, man. It's about honor, respect, discipline, which I try to live by. And I think any martial artist, you know, aside from punching and kicking or grappling or whatever, I think they should live by those traits, and it'll make them a better person in general, right? It'll improve the lives with people around them. I think it's just a good thing. Yeah, but going back to the taking advantage of an 80-plus-year-old Vic Moore, it's like, I disagree, man. In fact, the guy, well, I met Vic Moore last year, and there's a Krav Maga instructor, Jesse James Tucker, put me in contact with him, got on the phone, had an amazing call, and I'm like, yeah, we decided we gotta get him on the channel. Now, Vic Moore's not the best with technology, and it was very hard to set up a Zoom meeting with him, which is why that never took place before. But then I had another guy, Kyle Green, reach out to me, and, you know, he's helping Vic Moore. He was kind of like technical support in a way, helping him get on the Zoom call. So, long story short, that interview should have probably taken place almost a year ago, but we did get it done. Now, the drama in the martial arts world that I had referenced earlier, I guess Kyle and Vic might have had a falling out, because I know Kyle put up a GoFundMe to kind of help Vic Moore get to Alan Goldberg's martial arts action mega weekend, and, you know, help offset some of those expenses, like, you know, the plane tickets, the hotel rooms, etc. And I even let people know about the GoFundMe. I even contributed to it myself, try to help him out, right? As a martial artist, helping out a fellow martial artist, Vic Moore, Grandmaster Vic Moore. But long story short, based on some stuff that Vic had said about Frank Dukes, were seemingly contradicting himself. You know, there's this documentary called Put Up Your Dukes that came out, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, where Frank Dukes and Vic Moore were talking, and it really seemed like they trained and sparred back in the day, and they both spoke highly of each other. But then when I interviewed Vic Moore just recently, Vic says, no, they never sparred or did anything. So, you know, Frank Dukes took a big issue with that, and I don't know if him and Kyle are closer than Kyle is with Vic. But long story short, Kyle took down the GoFundMe, so anybody who contributed, myself included, I guess are getting refunded, you know? And if we don't, well, I'll apologize to all you guys who contributed to it, and then, you know, it got taken down. So I hope you get your money back. I mean, I should get my money back too. So anyway, that happened. But who knows, man? Maybe I'll try to get Vic more live with some other guys, and we'll discuss a few things. I really ideally would love to get Vic Moore and Frank Dukes together live. That would be insane. So I don't know if Frank Dukes would do it though. He kind of said he has no interest going live or doing a quote debate or discussion with anybody else. Unfortunately, we'll see. We'll see how that plays out, man. But what else this guy say? Let's create our own narrative and stop having people that don't care about us talk to us. I don't even know what to say about that, man. Again, I respect and like martial artists. I don't really care if you're white, black, Asian, Hispanic, Middle Eastern, woman, transgender. Like, I literally had a transgender on the channel and interviewed them. And it was quite an interesting interview. Really amazing judo champ and ex-SWAT team member. And I wanted to get her story. But that story was his story when it took place. And then when I interviewed him, the transition had already taken place. So Charlie is a woman. Anyway, this guy, I believe... Look, there's a niche for these things. Like, if he literally just wants to start a podcast strictly for black martial artists, fine. I'm sure he'll find success. Just like if someone did, well, I only want to do female martial artists, or I only want to do Asian martial artists. With me, I don't really care about your background, the way you were born, or I guess in Charlie's situation, even if you transition. Like, if you're a martial artist that has an interesting story, and I would love to share it on the platform, man. I mean, not just any random person in general, but obviously Grandmaster Vic Moore, for example, has a very interesting history. So do people like I interviewed a lot of interesting people, like Don the Dragon Wilson, Benny the Jet Urquidez, all kinds of interesting individuals, all with different backgrounds, right? For me, it's just, let me get an interesting martial artist. I'm not going to just exclude somebody based on their sex, their race, their age, their religion, like whatever, man. I don't think that's not the way I want to do things anyway. But if this guy wants to do that, I wish him luck, man, because it is not easy. It is not easy, but he seems to really be in the martial arts. He seems to be passionate about this topic. So I wish him luck, man, because it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. My advice for him or anybody else, start now, because it's going to take probably a year to really start building your audience. And because you're putting so much time and energy, I think it's fair, just like anything, to eventually be compensated in some way. So, for example, if you make a YouTube channel, you will start making a little bit of money. And when I say little, it's really a little in ad revenue. And you can supplement that in other ways, which, by the way, I started a Patreon account, which I want to give you guys exclusive content. I have a couple stuff posted on there already. Check it out in the description below and help support an independent creator like myself. And if this guy or somebody else makes a channel, hopefully they'll over time make a little bit in ad revenue. But they should probably look into something like Patreon themselves, because if they got a fan base, there's probably a small percentage that would help them out and the kind of content that they're putting out. So, I mean, that's why I created it, man, because I break these numbers down. It's like, at least for my channel, it's a decent sized channel. It'll honestly probably be 100,000 subs in the next few months. But even that, dude, like, I break these videos down, I make them at less than minimum wage. So the Patreon, I want to keep doing these things, but it is nice if somebody can contribute to try to help that out, because it does take a lot of time and energy. And I have a big passion for this stuff. So the big wins really like the networking I get to do and meeting and talking to all these different individuals. That's really cool. And then sharing their stories with you guys. So anyway, if you want to help out with the Patreon, get that exclusive content, check the link in the description below. So just to wrap everything up, I think this guy does look at the world with like a certain lens, right? Like, you could literally look at the world and just make it about race, or just make it about age, or just make it about religion or politics. You could just look at the world and you will find different examples that will fit your self-created narrative. And with those examples, there could be some truth to them, or there could be no truth whatsoever. So, for example, here's just a story I'll share. This actually happened a couple years ago. I forgot what town this was. This is in the Midwest, by the way. It was like a little town, and I would say the majority of people there were white, And, you know, my wife's white, me, you know, I don't know what people think I am, to be honest. Like, I'm mixed. I'm half white, half Asian. And the funny thing is, growing up, when I would hang out with white people, they would always see me as more like the Asian guy. And if I would hang out with Asian people, they would see me more as the white guy. I always kind of seen the commonality, right? Because I think, especially when you're young, you want to fit in. But ironically, people would see the difference, right? It is what it is. Right now, I'm just the Viking samurai. I don't really care if somebody thinks I'm white, Asian, mixed, all of the above, none of the above. Like, whatever, man. I just, it's never been like that big of a deal for me, right? And maybe it's different for mixed people. I don't know, man. But going back to that story, so, you know, we had a nice dinner at this restaurant, and then next door there's like this ice cream shop. And I'm not like the biggest ice cream guy, but my wife wanted to get ice cream. I was like, okay, cool, I'll get an ice cream cone too. And it was so busy, and, you know, we got in line, we ordered. And then I noticed that a lot of people who were behind us started getting their orders quicker. And it took a while, so then we went back up to the front window and said, hey, we never got our ice cream. But apparently, like, I guess the person that took the order never, you know, put word out to the people preparing it back there. Oh yeah, sorry, we never made it. But we'll get on it right now. It's like, okay, yeah, whatever, man. It is what it is. I'm not really like, I'm not gonna like get mad and scream at them. I mean, people make mistakes, whatever, man. I'm more stoic, right? I'll just, it is what it is. You know, it would be nice if we got our ice cream on time. But anyway, a little more time goes by. They give my wife the wrong ice cream, and I still don't get mine. And it's just like, you know, go back up to the window. Hey, you guys made hers wrong, and I still didn't get mine. We eventually did get the ice cream. But where I'm going with that is, look, man, what if hypothetically I was black? And what if I had that racial lens of how I look at the world? In my head, I would not even think about their incompetence. I would just be like, oh, they're not giving us our ice cream because I'm black, you know? Or I could even, again, like, I don't know what people think I look like, man. A lot of people just think I'm ethnically ambiguous. But let's say hypothetically, I really identified with the Asian side, and, you know, I had this racial chip on my shoulder. I'd be like, hey, they're not giving me ice cream because I'm Asian, even though I'm only half, right? I could totally just play that card, right? I mean, it's unhealthy, and it wouldn't have been true. And even if it was true, let's say hypothetically, the person who took the order really just seen the Asianness in me and was like, I'm going to give all the white people ice cream. F this Asian guy because, you know, maybe his dad or his granddad died in Vietnam. And even though I'm not Vietnamese, there's an association because maybe I look part Asian. It's like, I'm not giving this guy his ice cream. Let's say hypothetically, though I doubt it, let's say hypothetically that were true. How does that impact my life? Like, if I knew that for a fact, I'd be like, well, that sucks. I'll just never go to this ice cream shop again, and I'll go on with my life. You really need more of that stoic personality where it's like, look, you're not going to be in control of certain things that happen to you, but you can control, or at least try to control, the way you react to them. And I believe if people live like that, and I'm not saying this guy has like mental health issues, I'm not saying that at all, but I think if more people live with that stoic mindset, there'd be a lot less mental illness in general in this country. And let's face facts, I think if you do any studies or pull up statistics, ever since the whole quarantine thing, people's mental health had really gotten a lot worse, right? So anyway, look into Stoic philosophy, guys. I guess is the point I'm trying to make there, because it'll probably make you a little happier in life, or at least, you know, maybe content, right? Anyway, check out those Ron Hall interview segments that I did. Check out my Patreon. And as far as this guy goes, hey man, start the podcast. I wish you luck with it.